Hello and welcome to this show. I'm joined by my senior colleague and friend S. Kannan. Nice to have you back here, Kannan. I know our show on badminton did cause some tremors in the world of sport. Glad to have you back here today.
Thank you. I'm sure we will create a further tremor or a ripple at least.
So the idea is to share information with public, is to try and analyze what is happening in Indian sport, and in fact what is not happening in Indian sport. Today, you and I are trying to resolve, try to find out what really has happened. Why is domestic sport not revived at all? We've got to see the IPL, which is happening in the United Arab Emirates, but there is no sign of any other sport being revived, Kannan. Let us try and analyze the reasons. Let us look at each institution that is responsible for organizing domestic tournaments and why things have not taken off at all. Let me start with golf. I was speaking with a friend of ours, Swami, this morning, and he told me that golf is perhaps the safest sport around the world, and there is no reason for me to disagree with him. And I'm told that people are going to the golf course and playing regularly. Only tournaments haven't taken place.
It's very strange. There are certain sports which are quite safe. Golf, as you mentioned, is a very safe sport. There's natural distancing, and I think it's unlike a contact sport, and it's unlike team sport like, say, for example, hockey or football. So for golf not to resume is very strange because we are heading into October, November. This is the time, there are a lot of tournaments in India. Apart from the domestic PGTI calendar, you also have a few international events. You also have Hero Zone event. You have the women's event, pro event. You also have the men's event. So not having any event at all is very, very absurd. I really don't know who's responsible for it. But yes, there's two ministries involved in this process. One is the sports ministry, and of course, to a large extent, the home ministry, which gives clearances. So I think both these agencies need to be impressed upon that sport where resumption is possible, sport where there is no problem of coming into contact, maintaining the distance.
You mute Lapota. You went into mute.
Phone on the
Right, no problem. So you have to resume at a phone one that some sport are safeness on any. Illa in the home ministry pati solar
I think there are many sports at home where resumption is very much possible. We can talk about golf as one prime example. There's natural distancing between the two golfers, and even if there's a connect between the golfer and the caddy, there's a certain amount of distance. And I'm sure even a caddy can walk around with a mask, and you find that there is no really going to be an issue where they're going to come so close in contact where you can talk of any transmission. Even if you want to do the local event, the domestic event for the boys, the PGTI, the women's event, whether it is part of the PGTI tour, whether it is an independent event, whether it is even a lot of junior events also, what can be done is you adopt the safety measures, get the clearance from sports ministry and home ministry. I think home ministry is a very important ministry. And as you said, we may talk about even sport like swimming later. But swimming is one sport where they are not allowing it to resume. No swimming pool is opening because of home ministry regulations. Back to golf, you can resume it. You can get the players tested. You can get the officials tested. I mean, the word bio bubble is there in everyone's mind now who's part of sport. So why can't you create a bio bubble? Start with a bio bubble in golf. In fact, I must bring it to your notice. You probably read last week article when I spoke to Abhinav Bindra. He said shooting is a naturally distant sport. You're quite far away. As it is, there's a gap of one lane. You can increase that to 2 lanes and have your domestic competitions. And then if these things can be put in place, and then a third point, which was highlighted by none other than men's coach Graham Reed in hockey, that probably since you're not going to be playing international events, we need to start playing intra-domestic hockey. But who's going to think about it? National federations stand derecognized. IOA, I do not know what they're doing. So they should be doing. they can take the lead. One part is recognition, second part is resumption. Resumption must be focused upon the world has resumed sport. In fact, if you talk about domestic racing, the fun racing where you can go and land up at the MMRT in Chennai. On Sundays, you can pick up a car, pay for it and ride. So why is it suffering? Why is it blocked? Corona is not going away. Sport has to resume. That fear has to be killed. The whole world has started sport. Competitions have started. World records are being broken in athletics. What are we doing?
Kannan, to my mind, to take you back to the Home Ministry and the Sports Ministry, I think Unlock 3 and Unlock 4 both provided for sports to resume. Stadiums have been opened. I think it's the easiest of tasks to organize competitions. The only thing that needs to be done is for national federations, even though they're not recognized by the ministry, their activity can continue. They can resume sport. They can try and build those bio bubbles in select stadia and then resume sport. I think the federations are all waiting for the ministry to take the lead and to organize sporting competition. I think the federations have to step up. Take the PGTI, for example, the Professional Golf Tour of India. They need to be organizing competition. They need to be reviving competition. Unless federations show interest, unless sporting organizations show interest in organizing competition, we're not going to see them all come back in a hurry. Then to get back to athletics, for example, you made this very valid point about world record being broken in international competitions. In India, my own feeling is that the athletes are all scared of getting back into competition. They're all busy training. Training for what? I don't know what they're training for. They should be training for competition. I think the federation did want to have a few competitions, and the number of athletes said that they were not ready to get back into competitive. They have not got back into competitive shape and therefore not wanting competition. I think the players need to get rid of the fear in their mind, and then sports can resume in a big way.
I think this fear factor has to be conquered, as you said, irrespective of the fact that the federation is derecognized. We are not talking just about national sports federations and the big ones. We are talking about state associations. For example, let us take the cities. We take Delhi. Delhi is now, despite the number of positive cases, you can resume sport. But if you go to the DDA sports complex, which are several in number, about 7 or 8, they are allowing you to play, but they are not allowing you to coach. So I think the domestic organizer has to pick up the threads. Whatever be the sport, resume the sport. For example, yesterday the notification came that universities are going to open from November 1. Initially there was talk, we are talking about Delhi University, not just because you and I live in Delhi, because Delhi University is a central university. The admission process is yet to begin. They are talking about having the sports quota admission. And for that, just on the basis of certificates, nationals or whatever internationally you competed, they're not going to do it. There's a percentage for the sport where you actually demonstrate your skills on the field. You get rated by an independent panel plus the marks. So this is the way probably Delhi University will have its trial soon across several sports for, children to get into various courses. So this is the way it has to begin. And if it does not begin this way, the longer the gap, it is not at all good. Being in practice, training is one thing. Match fitness, being mentally sharp in a match. You've spoken to several sports psychologists. I have spoken to a few of them. When you train, for example, again, I go back to none other than Abhinav Bindra, our only individual gold medalist from Beijing 2008. He told me when you train at home, there's a certain amount of laxity which sets in. When you go to the range, the whole size, the aura, the arena, everything changes. So you have to get that into your head. You are talking about, the Olympics next year, third week of July. Well, it's September 23rd today, 9 months to go. It's not 12 months to go. So are you going to wait for the last 3 months, 4 months? Graham Reed has said 12, 13, 14 months, 15 months is the time you start training. So he has already said that gap, the time lost is going to be very valuable. And I'm sure if one coach like Graham Reed has said it, he's going to apply across all disciplines where we are qualified: boxing, athletics, weightlifting, wrestling, and of course, your favorite sport, swimming.
What really has happened is very sad. I think the federation need to take the lead, whether it is the PGTI for golf, whether it is the NRI for shooting, or the Athletic Federation of India. I think all federations need to come together and start planning for resumption of sport. Around the world, sport has resumed. There are international cycling competitions that are happening. Indian golfers are traveling overseas and are playing there in bio bubbles. And now our badminton players are getting ready to go to Denmark. Now, without any kind of domestic competition, we are going to use taxpayers' money to send some players to go and compete in the Denmark Open. I think it is a little unfair. I think the Federation, I think the Sports Authority of India really needed to show that our athletes are match fit and match ready by having some domestic competition. I don't know who on earth decided that they're all ready for international competition when they have not even played a single match at home. Badminton is a very, very good example, Kannan. That brings me to this point that when I read a Sports Authority of India press release which says that a player who's going to go and play in Denmark, his COVID tests will be sponsored by the Sports Authority of India, by the Target Olympic Podium scheme. I really think that we need to revise how much support we are going to give our top athletes. Of course, you have to support them emotionally, physically, and financially. But there must be a line drawn at some point of time. These are millionaires that we are talking about. And for them to be supported by saying, you go and play an international tournament and we will even look after your COVID testing charges. I think at some point of time, the government of India needs to draw a line and realize that these players become superstars, not just because they have talent, but also because the government of India has invested a lot of money in their training and in their competition.
Well, government of India has certainly invested a lot of money. There are also NGOs, we can't ignore them. They've also been putting in a lot of money. They've been supporting the athletes phenomenally. They are not just superstars, they're also professionals. And if you go by the strict definition of professional, once you've started accepting prize money, you're a professional, you're supposed to take care of yourself. I think it's only in India that the professional is still handheld, spoon-fed, and now you're talking about a COVID test. A common man like you and me, if he has to go and get a COVID test done under the sophisticated RT-PCR, will probably spend 5,000. It is shameful that an athlete, a badminton player, leading athlete, wants the government to pay for his test. This is not acceptable. At least take care of your health. It's okay. It's not like you're buying a supplement from outside, which you think is perfect and not going to land you in any anti-doping trouble. I think these are things which need to be analyzed by the athlete himself or herself. That how much are you going to extract from the system? At one end of the spectrum, we are having these superstar athletes extracting, and then you have the next rung, the development group across, athletics, badminton, everywhere, wrestling, swimming, shooting. There's no development. We hear Sports Minister Kiran Rijiju talking about 2028 top 10 medal tally. Where is the top 10 medal tally going to come from? Your younger lot, your development lot. You don't have the next rung in several sports ready to replace. Let's take an example. Suppose 2021 Olympics does not happen. I want it to happen. If it does not happen, are you going to flog all these 35-year-olds, 30-year-olds, hoping that they come and be fit for 24 and 28? No. You need to spend, if say there is 20 crores in that pie, keep aside a certain sum for the development athletes. That is not happening. The same set of athletes are being fed and overfed.
Kannan, to my mind, and I think it's very important that we discuss this at this point of time since you brought up the 2021 Olympic game. Where do you see India's campaign going? With just 9 months left for the Olympic game, none of the Olympic probables seem to be in serious contention in terms of showing match fitness, in terms of showing an eagerness to compete. There are a number of players who are just training in Sports Authority of India facilities or in private academies. We haven't seen anything of them, and the world is competing. The world is stepping out. There was a time where we expected that India would pick up a clutch full of medals. From 6 to 10 is the number that a lot of people were talking about. But at this point of time, all of that looks little doubtful, doesn't it?
It looks very doubtful, and as much as I want India to win medals, I will slightly make a correction over here. There are two sports where the athletes have stepped out. I mean, nobody's told them to go. As you said, you've got the professional golfers, the golfers who are playing abroad, they're playing the big tour events. They're getting sharper. They're definitely getting sharper. They're playing, they're at least they're out there on the fairways trying to find their way back into the sport. And don't forget that there have been instances of COVID-19 positive in golf also, but it continued. Second thing is tennis. Of course, we are not going to win a medal in tennis. It's very doubtful. But I must give credit to about four players. First is Sumit Nagal, who based himself in Germany. He won a round in the US Open. He lost, of course, in the French Open qualifying. He's playing and his ranking is improving. The second is Prajnesh Gunneswaran. He's gone for the French Open. Won one round in qualifying, then second. Then we come to Ankita Raina. Ankita Raina is also playing abroad. And last but not the least, a 40-year-old man, Rohan Bopanna, decided to go, took the risk. He's got his family, he's got a young child. He was also at home for 6 months, but he kept training. And he didn't get match fitness, but certainly tennis-wise fitness, he was hitting with kids. And well, quarterfinals with Shapovalov in the US Open. So these set of athletes, if they are going out there, I think they should be taken as the examples and we need to follow them. They did safe out there. There's nothing to fear. COVID-19 is not going to kill you. That fear in your head is going to kill you. Please come out of it.
Kannan, before we wrap up, I think it's very important also to point out that apart from IPL, there is going to be, to my mind, there is going to be the National Throwing Championship that the Athletic Federation of India is organizing in sometime in October. And then the Indian Soccer League, the ISL, which is going to start in November. I think this will be the earliest sports to kick off. And while all this is happening and while we are waiting for our Olympic hopefuls to get back into sporting competition, get back into sporting fray, it is very, very tragic that the Union Home Ministry has still not considered actively reviving pools, reviving swimming in the country by allowing the opening of some swimming pools. It should be the easiest of tasks for the government of India to nominate one or two pools in each city and say that the country's best swimmer or the state's best swimmer will use this facility and not those who are trying to be recreational swimmers. I think it is very, very, very important for people to come back and start swimming. Yes, 3 of them are training overseas in Dubai, but I don't think that is going to be enough. If you want the sport to do well in 2022 Asian Games in China, you need to get the swimmers back in the pool. And I hope and pray that swimming will be back and in reasonably good time. Hopefully Unlock 5 that should come at the end of this month will have some good news and cheer for the swimming fraternity.
Yes, I definitely hope swimming opens up and we're not just talking about the elite swimmers who've got B grade qualification mark for the Tokyo Olympics. As you said, you've got the Asian Games coming up. You've got the next cycle going to be coming up. For example, IISSF has already come up with the next Olympic qualification. Now, of course, there's going to be a World Cup in Delhi probably in March again before Tokyo. But then once this is over, they're again going to switch into the new Asian Games cycle. You're going to have the Commonwealth Games. And don't forget, you've got 2 events of Commonwealth Games 2022 going to happen in Chandigarh, archery and shooting. So we need to get into that. And as regards swimming, I think you just need to have a proper protocol. And I mean, I have found out from a few people, there are people swimming. They're probably swimming in a pond or they're swimming in a farmhouse. Don't crowd it. Create batches. And go ahead. This is what Abhinav said about even national camps in shooting. It's not necessary that you have to put rifle, pistol, shotgun, everyone together. By nature, swimming is a sport where you don't throw 30 people. You can put 3 people, 4 people. Give it a gap. I mean, recreational swimming may still sound hazardous. But I think, again, go for this COVID screening, COVID testing. The whole season of swimming has been killed. The whole younger lot, if they're not going to be swimming and they're just going to do dry swimming, throwing their hands and feet up in air, that's not going to work. I think Sports Minister, tomorrow he is addressing on fitness issues. He's talking to various athletes. I think fitness is one part. Match fitness is one part. Match competitiveness is the most crucial part. We need to work on that or we're going to be very far behind. I don't want any excuses. In August 2021, that because we were not able to train properly, India did not win.
I think more than training, it is also about competition. The swimmers haven't started training. It's very obvious. Many of them have not been training. Some of them are lucky to be swimming in ponds or in farmhouses, but that is not the same as swimming in a proper 50-meter pool, Olympic-sized pool. It's going to be crucial for them to get back to swimming. You have to relearn the whole process of swimming all over again. And I think there is the risk of injury as well when people get into the pool for the first time in 5 or 6 months. It is going to be very, very important that physiotherapists are around and that the trainers are around so that injury management happens, that there is the risk of injury is brought down. And I don't know, it's going to be very difficult. It seems an uphill task because there doesn't seem to be any leadership in Indian sport.
I just want to finish with one vital point, and that pertains to wrestling. The wrestling camps for men, the wrestling camps for women have been scheduled, rescheduled, cancelled. There have been COVID cases. I mean, I saw a tweet from Vinesh Fogart yesterday, a picture of 2 women grapplers on the mat, and kind of saying, "I'm missing this. I don't know when she's going to start training. I don't know when Bajrang Punia is going to start training." We are talking about them as Olympic medal hopefuls. So how can they not train? How long are they going to shy away from competition? It is a very scary situation. I hope Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, he watches this show. At least I will try and tag him because it is very important. You cannot pretend suddenly 4 months before. You have to start training. You have to get rid of that fear. Unless you get rid of that fear, you will never be able to play sport. It's like the first time you or me tries and goes and stands in front of a swimming pool or tries to get into a car and wants to hold the wheel. There will be fear. This fear has to be overcome. The sooner, the better.
Thank you very much, Kannan, for this freewheeling conversation. I'm sure we will get back for more soon, and hopefully there will be better things for us to discuss than some of the tantrum that our superstar athletes have thrown and the fear that they have shown and the rigidness with which some of them have refused competition. I think it's very important for us to be able to celebrate sport, and I'm hoping that they will all give us the opportunity sooner than later.
Thank you.